So, The Last Plague of Blight is an open-world survival craft game that has recently released into early access on Steam. And typically, I do an Is It Worth Playing? That's kind of like a first impressions video if I haven't completed the entire game at the point of recording that video. Then I'll do a full-on review if I have completed the game from start to finish. Whereas this one, being titled The Last Plague Blight Deserves Your Support, or is a game that deserves your support, the reason for that is because I think this game is incredible, and at the time of me recording this, it doesn't have many reviews. It's got about 47 or something, and it's been out for 2 days, so I think this game deserves a lot more exposure. And with it being an open world survival craft, it's procedurally generated. You are in a world that's basically got a plague going around. It's a disease-ridden, procedurally generated open world. There is a blight, and that is the disease in the game, and your goal is to bring it to an end. So, you basically start off with nothing in this game, like you do with, most, if not all, survival games. And this also doesn't have your typical first or third person perspective. It is a top-down. It's not bird's eye view, but it is more top-down. And one of the reasons I'm saying this deserves more support is because this game is very cheap. It's about £15 on Steam. And these developers are not just trying to grab your money. They've put a lot of time and effort into making the game. They said it's over 5 years that they've been working on this game. And it says, for will the game be priced differently during and after early access, we think it makes sense to raise the price upon leaving early access, assuming it's justified based on all of the content, features and effort put in up to that point. And the current state of early access, right now there is about 30 to 50 hours worth of unique content in the game to experience, and that includes buildings and craftable items. The experience itself is fairly solid. The procedural world generation creates unique and decently balanced worlds every new game, and the game so far gives a good sense of the gameplay, level of depth and realism that is being aimed for. And then when it comes to how is the full version planned to differ from early access, a good goal of the full version is to either have a story mode that lasts at least 100 hours of intense, challenging and interesting gameplay, or enough unique content and discoverability for that amount of time in non-story endless mode. The procedural world generation is decent right now, but we definitely want it to eventually generate the most beautiful, realistic and varied worlds seen in a game like this ever. And lastly, dependent on community feedback, local or networked multiplayer co-op functionality would potentially be a goal as well. So then approximately how long is the game going to be in early access? They have said in this box, and normally developers will be like, oh yeah, we plan for 6 to 12 months, we plan for a year or something like that. These have said there are too many planned features and content already, but it is tough to know when the game will fully feel like a 1.0 release and be ready to leave early access. Given this, and depending on how feedback goes and how the community steers the direction of the game, we imagine it will take at least a year for it to be fully ready after the initial early access release date. So these developers have been working on the game for over 5 years, they've put it into early access, and they've not done it just to grab your money and give you early access to the game. I believe every word these devs have said. The description of everything in early access has changed because their initial goal was to have the full release be around 50 hours worth of gameplay. So I think they're probably going back through testing and figuring out that you can actually spend longer playing their game, as it is in its early access version. But they are not rushing their way to a 1.0 release, and granted a lot of games take multiple years to come out of early access. But it's also not just the words that are used in the descriptions about the different topics regarding early access. It's the gameplay as well. This is such a well thought out game. For an example, because of the view, some players could get a little bit sort of confused with, say for an example, there's a small stone and it's hidden behind a bush. People are not going to be able to see that because you're not running around in a typical first person perspective. So what they've done is you can hold down left alt on your keyboard and it basically brings up within a certain radius, it brings up text to tell you what is in your vicinity, what's close to you, what's around you that you can interact with. And all of the buttons and stuff, as far as I'm aware, are you can remap them in the settings. I've actually put that left alt sort of sense vision thing. I've actually put it on one of my thumb mouse buttons. So you can change everything around you. It's got all the accessibility features and stuff like that. And you start this game in a procedurally generated world, you have nothing, and like there's so many things that go through the journal. They've got a journal in this game which is going to give you tasks, and I quite often see these survival games where they'll give you the basics in the journal, or some of them have the full-blown story through the journal. But the good thing about this one is they will say, for an example, you need to make a stone sort of fire pit, go and gather 10 small stones. And then what you can do is if you hover over the quest in the bottom right, the task in the bottom right corner, you're going to be able to see tips about how to find small stones, for an example. So it's not just chucking you into a procedurally generated world, telling you to survive and letting you crack on with it. And it's not just giving you tasks to go and complete to finish off the story for this game. They have put so much effort into the smaller things within this game. They've paid so much attention to detail. Like, for an example, if you need to go and make a mud brick kiln in order to cook clay, you have to go and find mud. And typically, like, if it's not been raining, everything around you on land is going to be dirt. So if you hover over that task in the bottom right corner, it's going to tell you in order to find mud, you need to go to where water meets land. So you need to go to the shore, and it tells you to look for mud around there. So you can go and you can successfully find your mud. They've got mud, sand, clay, like there's everything on the shore. But it also tells you when it rains, some of the dirt patches in the game can turn to mud. So it explains everything as you're playing through the game. And it's not that I want my games holding my hand or anything. It's that, for an example, in a lot of games you see tips and tricks videos. I've put out hundreds, if not thousands, of tips and tricks videos for different games. But this game, you're not really going to need them because the devs have put so much thought into helping their players through the game. You're going to understand any task that's given to you at any point. And I think the art style for this game is incredible. And it's not just go and build a stone fire pit and ignite it. You actually have to find your tinder, your kindling, and then you need to go and find something that will ignite the fire when you've got the tinder and the kindling. So you're going to need like pine branch leaves, you're going to need some twigs, and then you're going to need sticks to rub them together and to ignite the flame. But it's not a guarantee that you're going to set your fire pit on fire. The more leaves and the more twigs you put in, the higher your chance, and the highest I found being capped at being able to put 4 of each in, it was a 75% chance. So that adds to the elements of survival. You're not guaranteed to light your fire. And then also, as you're playing through, you'll get extra things you can craft for the gathering food. And I really enjoyed the way this worked. There was a rabbit snare, and once you've made it, you put it up and it's going to catch rabbits. You can then go and kill them, and you can harvest all of their materials. And another thing they've done in this game is if you like the idea of survival games, but you don't like how long some things take to craft, they've put a little speed up button. So you can speed up the crafting, and as soon as all the crafting is done, it puts you back to normal speed automatically and lets you carry on playing the game. But not only that, it's not just about surviving, making a fire pit. You actually have to make shelter, so you need to get some long sticks, you need to plant them in the ground, then you need to go and make support beams, then you need to put your roof on and everything like that to make your own shelter. So it's the art style for this game, the way they put so much thought into helping their players get through it. There is a lot to this game, it's procedurally generated, it looks really good. I don't think in my time with this game I found a single fault with the game at all. Because not only the stuff we've previously mentioned, when you start the game and you're setting up your camp, they tell you, go and set up your camp near a lake, like any sort of water source, because you're going to need water in this game. Like, they will help you through everything you're going to need help with. You don't have to follow their instructions, and you don't need to get the tips from their tasks if you don't want to, but they've added the tooltips in if you do feel you need that bit of help. And all you've got to do is hover over the task in the bottom right corner, and it's going to give you that tip. So the reason I'm saying this game deserves your support is it doesn't have many reviews, so I don't think it's had that many sales, but it's such a well put together game. The devs are actually thinking of the players, and that's why I believe everything they've said in the early access info sort of section on Steam. They want to make a big open world survival craft that you can play with your friends, that's procedurally generated. Like, they want it to be a smooth experience for you and your friends to enjoy this game for hours and hours, and they're not charging through the roof prices. This game, at least in early access, is going to cost you £15, so it's about $20, and I think this game is 100% worth every penny. I've had so much fun with it, even playing on my own. You can see from the moment you load this game up, they've put so much thought into making it user-friendly and also making it enjoyable, whilst crafting and developing this fantastic looking and really enjoyable game. So in my opinion, The Last Plague Blight definitely deserves your support. This is a game you should 100% pick up, even if you don't plan to play it for hours and hours, just to support these devs, because I think, personally, I think this game is fantastic. And what we are going to do is leave that video there. Let me know your thoughts and stuff about this game in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching.